cooked vegan does not make sense, and raw food does. So, but it matters which diet we're talking about. When we say guitar, we don't really know which guitar we mean. There's acoustic and classical, electric, and probably some others, bass, all sorts of guitar. When we say raw food anymore, people say, oh, I tried raw food, it didn't work. And I go, what do you mean it didn't work? You mean you didn't work it right? There's a huge difference in responsibility there, I think. The sports scientists and the health professionals recommend 10% of calories from fat before predictable health decline ensues. You've interviewed a lot of people. Have you come to a point where you have any recommendations in terms of overall fat consumption?
I can speak personally.
See, we've got an ethical.
I function better on lower fat. That's the bottom line. I don't measure it. I probably could measure it better, but I function better on lower fat in terms of my energy levels and my performance. And because I am from fitness background, I have always been active, and as I continue to be involved in fitness, I think the calories are not a dead issue, because I need calories in order to perform. We do need calories in order to get from here to our campsite, to our food, to everywhere. I mean, we need these things to act as our basal unit of energy. This is what we start with. We need this. Now, there is an issue of calorie density in terms of nutrient density in particular calories. So for every calorie, if we're eating olive oil all day long, which Doug talks about, if we eat olive oil all day long, we can get plenty of calories, but we will not get the nutrients that we need. So we need to keep in mind that maybe a piece of kale is much more dense per calorie than is, a container or a spoonful of olive oil. So for me, the lower fat, the better, absolutely. And for me personally too, in terms of raw food and cooked food, because we talk about high raw in terms of incorporating some cooked food into your diet until you feel that you don't want cooked food anymore, or you feel that you're just doing fine. What I've found is that if I go to cook calorie-dense foods, not fat foods, I still feel better than if I go to high-fat raw foods.
Okay, we're going to start speeding up at this point.
Okay.
Although, as you say, tough questions are allowable. So, as the follow-up to that, in your book, and this is the plug part, in your book, High Raw, don't go home without it. In your book, High Raw, you recommend whole foods as being optimal. Everyone in my section of the audience at least agreed that whole foods, optimal, most nutritious. But then you also specifically recommend as the best food there is, you recommend green juices. By what criteria do you consider green juices to be better than whole foods?
Green juices.
He's got a way.
Green juices I use as a supplementation to a regular diet. And I feel that if you feel like you maybe need some nutrient value, you can throw some minerals into your diet. Make that work for you. And I use green juices with whole foods. We blend it, instead of adding water to our smoothies, what we do is we add green juice. And I think that this is an incredible supplement to a diet that may be lacking in minerals. The organic foods are not as mineral rich as they have been in the past. We're not growing them ourselves. So we can get a little more green.
What is this? I can't hear that word you're saying. What kind of juice?
Green.
Green juice. Green juice. Yeah.
So, it wasn't supposed to be killed.
All right. Any questions for Doug from the audience? Any questions? Yeah.
I said that for a minute that Optimum Health Institute. I work in yes. And through that time, you see a lot of people. And one thing is, before I started on law or anything, I saw that I studied a lot about body types. Okay, they're driven by adrenal or thyroid or whatever. I see from all these people and studying body types
question. In fact,
Paraphrase that question because it was hard to
I'll
hear.
repeat the next question. Are there, some people seem to do better on certain diets, others better on others. Some people seem to do better as vegans, some people seem to do better including eggs and cheese or meat or whatever it may be. How do we make these allowances, in fact, money? And I will answer it. I'll answer it all weekend long. And it brings to mind a question that I'm going to let Kevin answer that question first, because the question that I actually have is, why or why not do you believe there is a species-specific diet? And which, if any of the following terms, do you agree or disagree with as optimal in terms of parameters for healthful eating? Whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. So are there any of those where you would say are not the optimal term? Is there better than whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants? Is there a species-specific diet? If you answer first, I will also.
Species-specific diet, absolutely. I mean, you know, our cat goes out in the woods and it eats mice. You know, it doesn't eat mangoes off of a tree. A dog might, but a cat goes out and it eats mice. So there is a species-specific diet. What our challenge is that there's also a species-specific location, and it's not in, you know, Alberta, Canada in the middle of winter. So we're dealing with a few different things, and we've adapted to some degree in the different places that we're living. We've adapted to different foods, and our body does adapt to different foods. It just might not function optimally. So we are supposed to be in the tropics because we have very little air, as I was just talking over there about very little air, and we're supposed to eat things that are easy to get. And so absolutely we have a species-specific diet.
Anything in whole, fresh, ripe, or organic plants that you don't agree as the optimal parameters or definitive terms of human nutrition?
I do want to say one other thing, is that because we've been in this environment, because there's chlorinated water, antibiotics, different other things that can actually interfere with our gut flora as well as interfere with other things that are going in our body, that we might not be able to work on that protocol to begin with. It might not work because we can be eating the healthiest diet on the planet, but if our body is not assimilating the nutrients from it, then we don't get the results that we want.
Right, which brings me to my part of the answer, Kathy.
Yeah.
Both Kevin and I have discussed it several times in the hour, and in my talk as well. Prior, we discussed the idea that how we love to look at one thing, we love to put on the blinders and say, well, you know, change my diet, it didn't work, my skin got bad, and my health declined in some way. Whereas what we're sitting here saying is, it's not that there's just a species-specific diet, there's a species-specific lifestyle. And that all of the 30 factors in lifestyle have to be considered. And that none is particularly way more important than another. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I've yet to figure out which, when people make changes hoping for improvement isn't always the first thing we see. But we do know that all people, all the time, expect to get better faster than is realistically possible. We all expect to heal far more quickly than our bodies typically can heal. Healing takes longer than we had hoped for. It rarely surprises us with how quickly it went away, faster than we expected. I broke my bone and it was better in 2 days. No, it doesn't. It's typically 6 weeks and you were hoping for 4. And in a case like